So Don, what is natural therapeutics?
So natural therapeutics is a term that was coined by a man named Henry Lindlar in about 1903, I believe, 1 year after one of his peers named, I believe, Benedict Lust, coined the term naturopathy. Essentially, they're the same thing. It's the practice of taking the best of a lot of different systems of medicine, homeopathy, herbal medicine, hydrotherapy, nature cure, and osteopathic medicine, chiropractic medicine, and essentially trying to support the vitality of the body. So the philosophy that underlies natural therapeutics is that there's a intelligent life principle that brings us through our life in a balanced way, and when we get out of balance, it will bring us back. It does that through acute healing gifts, fevers, and diarrhea, and whatever else. And naturopathic medicine and natural therapeutics are systems of medicine that are designed to support nature in returning us to balance. So if we were to have a fever, it would be practices that would support that fever's manifestation and resolution, believing that the fever has an intelligence behind it. So natural therapeutics is a system of health building that's in alignment with nature's wisdom.
So is this nature's wisdom or natural intelligence similar to the vital force that they talk about in homeopathy?
Yep, it is. So that principle, the vital force that it's, or the dynamis is what it was actually coined by Hahnemann, was the dynamis. The vital force, in India they call it prana, in the Chinese system they call it qi, the soul. It is that animating principle that is, consciousness, and that expresses itself through our being. It is absent in modern allopathic medicine's teaching body. That it's actually the only system of medicine that I'm aware of that doesn't have a life principle, animating concept at its center. But that animating concept is conscious, and it's intelligent, and it is expressed in nature in many ways, and its evidence is in the harmony and beauty that we see in the natural world, in all of the symbiotic relationships and the incredible intricacies of forests and oceans and all the dynamics of life. And we are a natural system as well, and that same principle organizes us, and if we allow it, it will maintain our life and balance in the same way that it maintains the balance and harmony in any natural system.
So it's like life force. It's what keeps us alive. Or something.
Yeah, you can call it God if you want. You can call it nature if you want. You can call it the divine. You can call it our soul. It is some principle that rests beyond our thinking mind, because that's essentially what a lot of this is built around, is our thoughts. Western medicine is a process of reducing the natural world to conceptual parts that the human mind has agreed upon. Whether you call it hydrogen or you call it oxygen, or at some level, that the phenomenon of naming, of reducing things to a nameable part, is an activity of the human mind that is limited in its capacity to really take in the full picture. And I don't know if it's possible to take in the full picture, but the Taoists of old, their science was a science of observation. They were scientists in their own way, and it was a way of trying to live in harmony with natural law. And they experimented in living in a certain way, and trying to find which way brought about the the greatest expression of health and vitality and abundance, and they found that it tended to be a very peaceful and receptive. There was the yin and the yang. There was outgoing expressions and there was receptive expressions, but there was a quality of being attentive to what was going on, what our body was expressing, not trying to be the one that was in control, but rather to be the one that was, I guess it's a question of where do we put the cart and the horse. I think Western medicine has put the cart in front of the horse, and they're getting all tangled up. Whereas if you can just let the natural intelligence lead us, whether it's in health philosophy, allowing a fever to express itself, or allowing a acute healing mechanism to express itself, that is an effort to let the intelligence of life guide us back to balance. Like, we believe that that's intelligent, not something to be suppressed with children's Tylenol in our little kids.
It sounds like a feedback loop where the mind is in charge, we'll say most of the time, but you're acknowledging that there's another intelligence out there that has something to say.
Yeah, I mean, the other intelligence out there is life itself. It's not like we're communing with aliens. It's our own nature. We've interrupted our intuitive relationship with our own nature through it's nothing that we've consciously done. It's the arrival of ego into the evolutionary equation. The other animals don't have this concept of ego, so they live in their intuitive relationship to the natural world. They get a little bit bloated, so they go eat that particular herb, that plant that makes them vomit is a purgative, and they just know to eat that. The dog is not getting enough fiber, will go out and eat grass. It's just in them. Like, oh, I see that. They're not separate, and we've become separate. And I believe there's some evolutionary principle at work there, and that it's not a negative thing, but I think it's something that we have to learn to live with. And when we allow the ego to be supreme, we are not in appropriate relationship with what actually is supreme, which is the life principle that is all around.
So as natural therapeutics, obviously acknowledging this life principle, what are the methods that they use? In other words, I guess what I'm asking is there a communication with this life principle through natural therapeutics?
Yeah, so an example of how that would happen would be, so the communication is the listening. So let's say there's a client who's coming in, right? And they are experiencing a fever. This is a very common thing. So the first thing that we do is we listen to the symptoms. This is an expression by the life principle of how this particular individual is suffering. And so we listen to the suffering, and then we try to support the expression of the suffering. So we say, okay, this fever, the body is raising its temperature. It's trying to accomplish something, which I believe is a constructive, acute healing through the raising of the body's temperature. So one thing that we might do to support it would be to drink ginger tea, which is internally warming. So that fever is burning heat from the inside out. Mm-hmm. If we put more warmth inside of it, it's going to support the fever in its efforts. Another thing that we can do externally is we could take cool washcloths and we could place them on the skin. And now what this does is it draws the heat out of the body. So the body's burning something and it's trying to eliminate it through the sweat of the skin. It's creating heat. So through applying the homeopathic principle, treating like symptoms with like treatment internally, ginger tea, heat, and allopathic treatment externally, cool towels. Allopathic means contrary suffering. So contrary to the expression of suffering externally,
Hmm.
then we're supporting nature's wisdom. So the homeopathic principle has been around for a long time, as has the allopathic principle been around for a long time, and they were both used in conjunction to, like, the original father of Western medicine, Hippocrates. He was very familiar with both. He was the one who said, "Give me a fever and I can cure anything." He was also the one who said, "Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food." But he was aware if you had a ankle that you had sprained and it was throbbing and swollen and hot, that a wise treatment for that would be to put it into a cool stream, because it would draw out the heat of the inflammation and support the process of bringing new blood to which is supportive of the healing process. So these are like, what is nature trying to do by expressing all this heat? You know, like what's trying to bring a ton of blood to the organism, you know? But now it's brought, you know, in some instances we can support nature to increase the intensity of her efforts and hopefully reduce the duration of the suffering. The homeopathic principle, oftentimes people will take a homeopathic remedy and will aggravate the symptoms for a short period of time, and then they'll resolve. So it's taking the expression of the symptoms, mimicking them by finding a remedy in the natural world matches those symptoms, and then creating a frequency that exacerbates the symptoms. It amplifies the symptoms, so that the effort the body's naturally trying to make through the expression of symptoms is increased, and therefore the process of healing is resolved quicker, and then resolution comes back and they're brought back to balance. Mother Nature, through the expression of symptoms, is trying to take an organism that is out of balance and bring it back into balance. Symptoms are her expression of that effort.